Welcome back to the journey of exploring the creatures that once ruled our planet tens of millions of years ago. Today, we step into the story of a remarkable dinosaur, ANKYLOSAURUS, the armored war chariot of the Cretaceous period. Imagine this. You are walking through an ancient forest where sunlight filters through the fan-shaped leaves of giant ferns. The ground vibrates with each beat, not a roar, not the sound of running, but a deep, slow, steady tremor. Something heavy is approaching. And then, in the dim light, it appears. A low, elongated silhouette, almost pressed against the ground. Its entire body is covered in thick, bony plates, rugged like slabs of mountain rock. At the end of its tail lies a massive club, a perfect bone hammer forged by nature over millions of years. This is ANKYLOSAURUS, one of the most formidable defensive animals to ever exist. This dinosaur was not towering like Brachiosaurus, nor could it run fast or hunt like Tyrannosaurus. Yet, in a Cretaceous world filled with death at every corner, ANKYLOSAURUS chose its own path. It did not flee. It did not hide. It did not strike first. It survived through endurance, through an armor almost impenetrable and a tail club strong enough to break the leg bones of any predator, even T-Rex. ANKYLOSAURUS was a walking fortress, a living testament to harsh evolution. It did not need to dominate, it only needed to endure, and that alone made it one of the greatest symbols of nature's adaptability. Before we follow the journey of this armored war chariot, how it ate, how it moved, how it fought to defend its territory, and how it faced the giant predators of its world, let your imagination open wide. Are you ready to step into the Cretaceous? To enter a world where every creature is the crystallization of millions of years of evolution, and where ANKYLOSAURUS, silent as it may be, still carries a story that astonishes all who encounter it. In the vast ancient world of the Cretaceous period, where the sky was haunted by the wings of pterosaurs, the ground trembled with the roars of predators, and fields of ferns towered higher than a human, there walked a creature, slow yet unwavering, carrying on its back an entire fortress of evolution. ANKYLOSAURUS. To understand the wonder of this creature, we must explore its body from head to tail, an intricate, deliberate, living design crafted by nature itself. ANKYLOSAURUS was not a tall dinosaur. In fact, most of its body barely reached the belly height of the giant dinosaurs of its time. It measured about 6–8 meters long and weighed between 6 and 8 tons, the size of a large truck or an adult African elephant. But what made ANKYLOSAURUS unique was not its size, but how that mass was distributed. Its body was wide and low to the ground, shaped like a flattened boulder, crucial for balancing its armor and its heavy tail club. Seen from above, ANKYLOSAURUS resembled an upside-down boat, wide in the middle, tapering at both head and tail. This short but solid build made it a true challenge for any predator. Even a towering T-Rex would struggle to flip or rotate it. ANKYLOSAURUS practically hugged the ground. This offered tremendous advantage. Predators could hardly reach its belly, its most vulnerable point. Everything on the upper side was armor. Its low profile caused enemy strikes to glance off, as if hitting a smooth stone. Unlike many gentle herbivores, ANKYLOSAURUS had a skull that was protected from the inside out. Its skull was thick and heavy, triangular, covered with small fused osteoderms, lined with bony ridges like blunt spikes. From a distance, its head resembled a small sledgehammer. The reinforced skull allowed it to ram obstacles and even deliver defensive headbutts if necessary. But more importantly, it protected the brain. The brain of ANKYLOSAURUS was small compared to its massive body, roughly the size of a large lemon or mango, but encased within an extraordinarily thick layer of bone nearly impenetrable. Its eyes were set on the sides of its head, rather than facing forward. This reduced depth perception but granted a panoramic view of nearly 360 degrees, an invaluable adaptation for a creature that lived on awareness and defense. An interesting detail: the nasal passages of ANKYLOSAURUS were labyrinth-like. Scientists believe this was a built-in air filtration and warming system, a natural air conditioner, helpful in the ever-changing climate of the Cretaceous. The back armor, a masterpiece of evolution spanning millions of years. If one were to choose a single trait that made Ankylosaurus legendary, it would unquestionably be its armor. Not metal plates as imagined in fiction, but something far more complex, osteoderms, bony plates that grew within the skin. The armor was composed of multiple layers: outer skin, several centimeters thick, rough, hardened, dark; dermal bone layer, hundreds of plates, from pebble-sized to brick-sized, fused tightly into the skin; inner tissue cushions, absorbing impacts. These plates covered the entire body: head, back, flanks, tail, even parts of the legs and neck. The largest spikes sat on the shoulders, and along the sides sharp spear-like structures that made biting extremely risky for predators. The armor served more than just defense. It could reflect light, cast large shadows, and make Ankylosaurus appear bigger and more intimidating. Some researchers believe the plates had varying colors, blending with forest light and helping Ankylosaurus camouflage into its surroundings. The tail club, one of the strongest natural weapons in Earth's history. Imagine a 30-40 kilograms mace, entirely made of solid bone, positioned at the end of the tail. The vertebrae near the club fused into a rigid rod, allowing maximum force transfer during a strike. When Ankylosaurus swung its tail, the speed could reach up to 100 kilometers per hour. The impact was strong enough to break a predator's leg bones. A single hit could force a T-Rex to retreat. This was not a hunting weapon, it was pure defense. Any predator that approached the tail would almost certainly pay the price. The strike of the tail club was so fast, the human eye would struggle to track it. Most predators understood its danger and preferred attacking from the front or sides, where the risk was lower. Yet the mere existence of this weapon made Ankylosaurus a threat even to apex predators like T-Rex. To carry such weight, Ankylosaurus needed extraordinary legs. Its forelegs resembled those of modern heavy-armored animals, such as rhinos or elephants, only stronger. Its front legs were low and wide, shifting balance forward. Its hind legs were powerful and short, generating force for tail swings. Its feet had broad, short toes, providing stability and traction. When moving, Ankylosaurus walked slowly, but each step felt like driving a stake into the earth. It did not need speed. Survival depended on standing firm in the face of attack. Skin and color. Camouflage by nature. Ankylosaurus had not only thick skin but dark coloration, often reconstructed as earth brown, stone gray, deep black, moss-tinged green. These hues allowed it to disappear into forests or scrublands. With its low stance and slow movements, it blended into the landscape like a moss-covered boulder rather than a living creature. The large plates on its back may have been lighter, creating mottled patterns like flat rocks. Even from afar, a predator might mistake Ankylosaurus for an ancient stone resting among the foliage. Teeth and diet. Specialized for grinding, a strict herbivore, Ankylosaurus lacked sharp teeth. Its teeth were small, leaf-shaped, flat, and unsuitable for tearing. But this posed no problem. The Cretaceous world was filled with ferns, shrubs, conifers, and tough plants. Ankylosaurus processed food by slow chewing, steady grinding, using strong jaw force. Scientists believe its stomach contained gastroliths, small stones that aided digestion. Like modern birds, its digestive system may have stretched dozens of meters, optimized for breaking down fibrous material, allowing Ankylosaurus to thrive where other herbivores struggled. Senses, sharp where it mattered. Though not the most intelligent dinosaur, Ankylosaurus had well-developed senses for detecting danger. Hearing allowed it to notice distant footsteps of predators. Smell helped it detect intruders. The nerves in its feet sensed subtle vibrations through the ground. When it detected strong tremors like a T, Rex approaching Ankylosaurus froze, blending into the landscape like a motionless rock. A calculated survival strategy. Not moving equals not attracting attention. A creature born not to flee, but to endure. Its body was engineered to absorb force, counterattack, inflict defensive damage, minimize injury, blend with the environment. It was one of the few dinosaurs capable of standing still and challenging the era's mightiest predators. A living fortification, a natural citadel, an icon of defense-based evolution. And finally, the great misconception. Ankylosaurus was not clumsy. In reality, it wasn't fast, but fast enough to pivot and strike with precision. No need to run, no need to jump, no need to chase. It only needed to stand solid, calm, ancient as stone, and wait for the perfect moment to unleash a tail strike, carrying the force of millions of years of evolution. To understand a dinosaur, one cannot look only at the creature itself, but must also look at the world in which it was born, lived, fought, and died. For Ankylosaurus, that world was the late Cretaceous period, around 68 to 66 million years ago, an age both majestic and perilous, inhabited by some of the most fearsome rivals to ever walk the earth. That world was a vast painting, where every brushstroke, conifer forests, ancient rivers, flooded plains, violent storms, contributed to the rhythm of life of this armored war chariot. Let us step slowly into that landscape. The land Ankylosaurus once inhabited is what we know today as modern North America, Canada, and the western United States. But 66 million years ago, it was an entirely different place. The climate was much warmer. Average temperatures were higher. There was no ice at the poles. Sea levels were elevated. In the middle of the continent lay a massive inland sea called the Western Interior Seaway, dividing North America in two. Ankylosaurus lived on the western portion, Laramidia, a long strip of land with an extraordinarily rich ecosystem. Nowhere else on Earth at that time held so many massive and diverse dinosaurs. Ankylosaurus did not live in deserts, nor did it wander open grasslands like modern cattle. It preferred low, dense forests filled with soaring conifer trees, thick layers of ground ferns, hard, woody shrubs, cycads with widespread leaves, large, barkless tree trunks. These forests were saturated with the thick scent of resin, sunlight filtering through the canopy into hazy beams. Beneath the trees, a warm, moist carpet of decaying leaves allowed vegetation to thrive. It was the perfect habitat for a slow-moving, low-built, but powerful herbivore like Ankylosaurus. On the forest floor, vegetation such as ferns, nearly 2 meters tall, cycads that resembled ancient palms, primitive conifers, araucaria, ancestral ginkgo trees formed a natural labyrinth. Curving branches, fallen logs, thick underbrush. These were the places Ankylosaurus walked, fed, and concealed itself. Beyond forests, Ankylosaurus often ventured into flooded plains, where meandering rivers left behind black, silty mud, some of the most life-rich environments of the Cretaceous. Here you could find rivers of murky, fast-moving water, temporary lakes formed after heavy rains, soft vegetation growing along the banks, countless giant Cretaceous insects, large fish, and lurking aquatic reptiles. These areas were ideal feeding grounds, rich in plants, but they were also among the most dangerous, as predators often hid nearby. Enormous footprints pressed into wet mud, long drag marks from a heavy tail club scraping the ground, all signs that Ankylosaurus had passed through. Late Cretaceous North America was a land of rapidly shifting and sometimes violent weather. Ankylosaurus had to endure the rainy season, massive, tropical storms, thunder shaking the ground, downpours carving new streams overnight, flash floods sweeping away soil and debris. During these days, Ankylosaurus sought higher ground, hiding beneath dense trees to avoid getting trapped in deep mud, a potential death sentence for such a heavy creature. The dry season, soaring temperatures, cracking earth, withered, fire-prone vegetation. Yet this was when Ankylosaurus's heavy armor proved advantageous. It minimized water loss, reduced heat absorption, and kept the body relatively cool. Natural forest fires. Lightning striking dry trees was a common cause of wildfires. Ankylosaurus rarely panicked. It moved slowly and calmly toward burned areas or riverbanks, the safest places. Its bony armor even provided some protection from sparks and brief bursts of heat. Ankylosaurus's habitat was not only filled with plants and wetlands, it was also home to some of the most terrifying predators to ever exist. Among its neighbors were Tyrannosaurus rex, the king of all predators, Darkotaraptor, a massive, swift, intelligent raptor, Daspletosaurus, a large relative of T-Rex, Nanotyrannus, if it truly existed, smaller but faster. For a creature that couldn't run fast, living among such monsters was a tremendous challenge. But that very pressure shaped its evolution into a moving fortress. Alongside predators, its ecosystem hosted many gigantic herbivores: Triceratops, Edmontosaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, Torosaurus, various hadrosaur species. They roamed the tropical woodlands in large herds. Ankylosaurus was different. It lived alone, preferring quiet spaces. Yet the presence of these herds sometimes provided clues about food availability and danger. Trails left by the larger species occasionally became paths Ankylosaurus followed, much like modern herbivores sharing natural routes through forests. Ankylosaurus favored areas near water, not because it was a strong swimmer, but because vegetation grew rapidly, the air was cooler, the soil was softer for digging, food was abundant. But life near water also brought risks: giant, ancient crocodiles, deep marshes where it could get stuck, predators ambushing from riverbanks, sudden floodwaters. During dangerous moments, Ankylosaurus could stand motionless in the shadow of waterlogged trees, its armor reflecting dappled light off the river surface, making it appear like a stone block rather than a living animal. The world of Ankylosaurus was one of the richest ecosystems ever recorded in Earth's history. It held, on land, huge, herbivorous dinosaurs, massive carnivores, ancient lizards, and snakes. Some of the earliest birds, giant insects with long wings. In the sky, pterosaurs with wingspans over 10 meters. Primitive birds gliding over the canopy. Dense swarms of insects. In the water, large fish, ancient turtles, crocodiles over 6 meters long, worms, mollusks, and sediment dwellers. Ankylosaurus walked silently and steadily among them, like a breathing stone. Every trait it possessed was compatible with the late Cretaceous ecosystem. Warm climate, its bony armor helped dissipate heat. Many predators, its tail club was the ultimate deterrent. Tough, low vegetation, its low-slung head and leaf-shaped teeth were perfect for grinding. Dense forest and underbrush, a wide, low body allowed easy navigation. Wildfires or floods, its ability to hide in low terrain helped it survive sudden change. All of this made Ankylosaurus not just an armored creature, but an inseparable part of the ecological tapestry of the Cretaceous world. A tragic, yet historic truth. The very land Ankylosaurus called home, rich with countless species, was among the first to feel the wrath of the Chicxulub asteroid impact. The dense forests that once sheltered them turned to oceans of fire. The rivers that nourished them became cold and dark. The great herds that once roamed vanished, one by one, but that belongs to a different chapter. In this moment, within this primal landscape, Ankylosaurus still lives, still walks, still crushes fern leaves beneath its feet, still swings its powerful tail to defend its territory. A creature calm, silent, yet more powerful than any description could ever capture. As the sun began to rise above the ancient horizon, Its first rays slipped through the thick canopy of coniferous forest, and Ankylosaurus, too, began a new day. No earth-shaking roar, no thundering charge, no turmoil. Its world began in silence. A slow, steady rhythm of life. Dew clung to the thick, bony plates on its back, making Ankylosaurus appear as if draped in a coat of wet stone catching the morning light. As it moved, droplets slid gently to the forest floor, creating soft, muted plops. Light filtered through the leaves in long golden shafts, falling across its rugged back, making the rows of osteoderms look like ancient stone slabs carved by nature's hands. Morning was the time Ankylosaurus enjoyed most cool, quiet, when few predators were active. It lowered its head, its short beak brushing aside the dew-soaked ferns, and began searching for food. Unlike towering herbivores such as Triceratops or Edmontosaurus, Ankylosaurus stood only as tall as their bellies, but this was an absolute advantage within dense forests. It specialized in eating ferns, fallen conifer needles, tough shrubs, young cycads, ground-level vegetation. Each time it fed, Ankylosaurus didn't yank violently like other species. Instead, it used its beak to bite off a large clump, then ground it down with its tough, leaf-shaped teeth. If you stood nearby, assuming you survived such an era, you would hear the sound, krr, 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 the rhythm of teeth and facial bones working continuously. The entire forest seemed to tremble softly with each slow chew. Modern paleontologists believe Ankylosaurus had an enormous stomach, almost a biological fermentation chamber, where tough plants broke down through bacterial activity, similar to the digestive systems of modern herbivores. Its pace of life was slow but perfectly suited for a world full of low vegetation. Weighing up to 8 tons, Ankylosaurus was anything but clumsy. On the contrary, it moved with deliberate steps, as though it understood every texture of the forest floor beneath it. From a distance, it looked like a boulder in motion. Each of its steps was low, wide, stable, nearly silent. Its low, broad body granted excellent balance, especially when it needed to swing its tail in defense. Scientists believe Ankylosaurus could pivot 90 degrees in less than a second, just enough to smash its tail club, weighing dozens of kilograms, into an attacker, a maneuver feared by any predator. Unlike many herbivores that lived in massive herds, Ankylosaurus is thought to have lived alone or in small groups of 2 or 3. Reasons included: its armor made strength in numbers unnecessary. Its food sources were sparse, unable to support large herds. Solitude lowered the chance of detection by predators. Its calm nature and short travel range. However, it wasn't emotionless. When encountering another Ankylosaurus, it would often stand still, observe from afar, sometimes tap its beak gently against the other's armor, a kind of greeting. There were no roars, no loud calls. Communication was quiet, based on body movement, posture, and eye contact. When 2 males met during mating season, they might strike each other with their tails not to kill, but to display strength. These blows could ring through the forest like mallets pounding hardwood. T. Rex was most active at dusk, at night, at early dawn, so Ankylosaurus chose late morning, midday, late afternoon for feeding and movement. They did not analyze strategy, but millions of years of evolution taught them to live in rhythm with their predators. When the sun rose high and T-Rex activity dropped, Ankylosaurus moved more, needing warmth to support digestion. Despite its bulk, its skin could dissipate heat through the gaps between armor plates, allowing it to withstand high temperatures without becoming exhausted. Ankylosaurus's survival strategy had 2 phases. Absolute stillness. When it heard or sensed vibrations from predators, it froze. It breathed softly. It lowered its head, its body mimicking a featureless stone, with its brown-gray color blending seamlessly with shadows. Many predators overlooked it. Explosive counterattack. If detected or attacked, Ankylosaurus would strike, pivoting with powerful hind limbs, swinging its tail at speeds up to 100 kilometers per hour, aiming for the attacker's legs or ribs. The force of a blow could exceed 4,000 newtons, enough to break a T. Rex's shin, crack the rib armor of large predators, cause an attacker to stumble and retreat. Some T. Rex fossils bear fractures consistent with Ankylosaurus club, strikes proof that these clashes once happened, leaving their mark in stone. As the sun reached its peak, Ankylosaurus sought a place, under a large tree's shade, near water. On soft leaf litter, it braced its forelimbs, lowered its heavy body, and its armor made a faint, dry clack as it touched the ground. During this time it would close its eyes, breathe slowly, digest its food, restore its energy for the rest of the day. Watching it, one would hardly believe that this gentle creature could transform into an impenetrable warrior when threatened. The footprints of Ankylosaurus were enormous, wide and deep. The foreprints were round, the hindprints oval, usually forming a straight trail. Sometimes people discover drag marks from its armor brushing the ground, shallow grooves from its heavy tail moving sideways, patches of overturned soil where it foraged. These traces are like pages of a diary it unintentionally wrote onto the earth, telling stories of its direction, habits, and even the time of day. As the last light of the day faded, other sounds emerged. The rising wind, the droning of giant insects, the rustling of nocturnal predators. This was when Ankylosaurus shifted fully into defensive mode. It sought flat ground, positioned its back against a large tree or earthen wall, preventing ambush from behind. The armor on its back and shoulders was angled toward the greatest danger. It never slept deeply. Instead, it slept in short intervals, stayed alert, opened its eyes periodically, sensed vibrations through its limbs and skin. It was a creature built to survive, and its behavior reflected that perfectly. No need to hunt, no need to lead massive herds, no migrations spanning hundreds of kilometers. The rhythm of Ankylosaurus was small, repetitive, simple, yet so efficient that it bordered on perfection within its environment. And it was this stability that allowed it to survive for millions of years among the most powerful predators ever to walk the earth. In the dense forests of the late Cretaceous, life was anything but gentle. Even though Ankylosaurus carried on its back an armor nearly impenetrable, nature never stopped testing it with cunning, powerful predators lurking endlessly in the shadows. Facing them, each day Ankylosaurus survived was a victory of persistence and evolution. When it came to its most formidable enemy, one could not ignore Tyrannosaurus Rex, the creature with the strongest bite force ever known on land. The moment T-Rex appeared, the entire forest seemed to hold its breath. Each step made the ground vibrate. Ancient birds took flight from the canopy. The air grew heavy and still. The only remaining sound was a low rumble like distant thunder. T-Rex stood nearly 4 meters tall, stretched 12 meters long, and weighed over 9 tons. To every herbivore, it was the embodiment of death. But to Ankylosaurus, it was a true duel. The sun was low, casting bright orange beams through the woods. Ankylosaurus was feeding near a patch of ferns when it heard a deep, long, steady sound. Vroom, vroom. The vibration rose from the ground more than from the air. It stopped, raised its head, inhaled deeply and slowly. A strange scent, the scent of flesh, the scent of a predator. Millions of years of instinct, triggered instantly, remained still. But the long shadow falling before it showed it was too late. A fully grown T-Rex stepped out from between the trees. No roar, no hiss. T-Rex simply lowered its head, golden eyes locked onto the armored challenger before it. T-Rex was no fool. It knew Ankylosaurus was dangerous. It would not attack from the rear, that bone hammer could snap a leg clean. It circled to the left, slow and deliberate, as if reading every movement of Ankylosaurus. Then, thud, T-Rex lunged forward and delivered a test bite to the shoulder armor. Its bite force, around 57,000 newtons, was strong enough to crush the bones of other giants. The impact shook Ankylosaurus's entire body, pressing the soil beneath its feet several centimeters deeper. But the thick, curved, rigid armor held strong. T-Rex jerked its head back. It hadn't injured Ankylosaurus, but it now understood that the opponent before it was not an easy meal. Ankylosaurus did not flee. It did not panic. It stood firm like a stone in the wind, saving its energy for the right moment. As T-Rex lowered its head for a second strike, Ankylosaurus pivoted. In that instant, every muscle in its body tightened, hind legs braced, and the entire torso rotated in a rapid arc. The massive tail, weighing over 40 kilograms, shot out like a boulder launched from a colossal sling. Whoosh! The air split apart. The club smashed into T-Rex's front leg. Crack! A dry, sharp, painful sound. T-Rex roared, not in threat this time, but in real agony. Its leg bone fractured. It staggered, a 9-ton monster forced to reel from pain. No predator wished to pay such a price for a meal. T-Rex backed away, its eyes still fixed on Ankylosaurus, but now filled with caution and respect. It knew another blow like that could shatter its leg entirely. After a few tense seconds, T-Rex turned away, limping but still carrying the regal aura of a top predator. Ankylosaurus remained still a bit longer, ensuring the attacker was truly gone, then lowered its head again and calmly returned to chewing ferns, as if no battle had ever happened. If T-Rex was a threat of brute strength, then Dakotaraptor was the nightmare of agility and intelligence. Long arms, blade-like claws, superior speed, and more importantly, they hunted in packs. When a group of Dakotaraptors spotted a solitary Ankylosaurus near the water's edge, they did not charge recklessly like T-Rex. Instead, one stepped forward to test its reaction. Two flanked behind. Another watched from the bushes. They understood that attacking the head or back was useless. Their target was the flanks, where the armor plates were smaller. Ankylosaurus knew this. It stood with its thickest armored side toward the raptor pack, back near the waterline. One raptor lunged swift as an arrow, but Ankylosaurus had already swung its tail. Whoosh! The club swept across the ground, kicking up wind and dust. The raptor narrowly avoided a direct hit, but the force of the swing was enough to throw it tumbling down the riverbank. The others hesitated. Ankylosaurus barely moved, but every pivot it made was a lethal threat. Unlike T-Rex, which needed only one decisive blow against a raptor pack, Ankylosaurus had to maintain constant pressure, constant rotation, constant intimidation. The battle dragged on for more than 10 minutes. Eventually, the raptors retreated, not out of fear, but because they saw no realistic opening to strike. Beyond giant predators and raptor packs, Ankylosaurus also faced threats from Daspletosaurus, Troodon, Nanotyrannus, if it existed, other smaller carnivores. These species rarely attacked head-on. They waited for Ankylosaurus to be stuck in mud, injured, exhausted after fighting, far from safe terrain. One Daspletosaurus once attempted to attack Ankylosaurus as it drank from a river. It leapt from the bushes, biting into the flank. But the moment its teeth met armor, clang, a metallic ring like striking solid stone, Ankylosaurus spun and retaliated. The tail club slammed into the predator's hip, knocking it to the ground. It fled, leaving a long trail of blood through the underbrush. All these battles reveal one simple truth. Ankylosaurus did not win through speed, did not win through intelligence. It won through perfected defense. Nature had given it gifts no other creature had. Armor thick as mountain rock, a war hammer for a tail, a low center of gravity, rapid pivot ability, natural camouflage, absolute patience, precise, energy-efficient responses. It did not need to strike first, did not need to chase, did not need to dominate territory. It only needed to stand firm. And in a world ruled by giant predators, that was the most perfect strategy of all. ANKYLOSAURUS carries on its back a natural fortress stronger than the shields of ancient warriors. Its armor is not merely thick skin or simple scales. It is made of hundreds of osteoderms, bony plates fused directly into the skin, forming a seamless protective shell. Each plate has a different shape: round, oval, conical, polygonal. Some are as large as dinner plates, others as small as cashew nuts. They grow in rows along the body like moving barricades. The thickest armor lies over the shoulders, the spot most often targeted by predators. This armor is structured like natural concrete: bone on the inside, keratin on the outside, and a cushion of flesh beneath optimized for absorbing impact. To a T. Rex, these plates were like sheets of iron, nearly impossible to pierce. The tail of ANKYLOSAURUS is one of the strongest weapons ever evolved on land. The tail club of ANKYLOSAURUS weighed around 30–40 kilograms, made entirely of dense, solid bone. When it struck a target, it could generate enough force to break the leg bones of a T. Rex, shatter the rib armor of other predators, knock down enemies twice its own weight. Its mechanism works like a warhammer, but far more flexible, powered by incredibly strong tail muscles. The vertebrae near the club fuse into a rigid beam, maximizing force transfer. With each swing, the club could reach speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour. ANKYLOSAURUS had an astonishingly complex respiratory and nasal system. Its nostrils were not straight like those of many other dinosaurs. They curved, twisted, and branched into multiple chambers like a labyrinth. Scientists believe this structure helped filter dust in dense forests, warm air before it reached the lungs, retain moisture in dry seasons, enhance its sense of smell, crucial for detecting predators at a distance. Some studies even suggest this was a form of biothermal regulation, helping maintain stable body temperature. The skull of ANKYLOSAURUS is one of the toughest ever discovered. Its skull was short, broad, extremely thick, fused with armored plates, reinforced with bony ridges like rebar in concrete. Its hardness was enough to withstand a test bite from a T-Rex, and its flat shape allowed it to stay low as it fed, protecting the neck, one of the greatest vulnerabilities of most herbivores. Slow-moving, yet ANKYLOSAURUS could pivot with incredible speed. It sounds strange, but it's true. Its low body and ground-hugging center of gravity ideal for rapid rotation. Its hind legs were incredibly strong, providing explosive torque. When striking with its tail, it only needed to twist half its body rather than move its whole mass. Its reaction time when sensing danger was faster than many other herbivores. Thus, despite moving slowly, pivoting 90 degrees in under a second was entirely possible. ANKYLOSAURUS had a massive digestive system, a true plant decomposition factory. Its stomach was long and multi-chambered, capable of breaking down tough ferns, cycads, old fibrous leaves, plants rich in thick cellulose. It may have swallowed gastroliths, smooth stones in the gut, to grind food, much like modern birds. This allowed ANKYLOSAURUS to survive in areas where other herbivores could not find enough to eat. The greatest threat to ANKYLOSAURUS was not T-Rex, but raptors. T-Rex was too large and too slow to attack ANKYLOSAURUS effectively, but raptors like Dakotaraptor were fast, clever, and hunted in packs. They knew, don't attack the head, don't attack the back, stay away from the tail. They aimed for the softer side regions where the armor was thinner. This forced ANKYLOSAURUS to often stand with its back against trees or earthen walls to protect its weak spots. Battles with raptor packs were longer and far more dangerous than encounters with T-Rex. ANKYLOSAURUS was a master of camouflage. Its skin was grey, earth brown, dappled like forest shadows. rough as mossy stone. This allowed it to vanish in the forest. Lying still beneath shade, it became a stone. Standing near ferns, it blended with the ground. Dappled light through leaves broke up its outline. Many predators passed it by simply because they couldn't see it. Ankylosaurus rarely attacked first, but when it struck, it almost never missed. All fossil injuries associated with Ankylosaurus reveal high accuracy strikes, force concentrated on legs or ribs of opponents, counterattacks delivered quickly, with no wasted movement. This proves it acted on instinctive calculation, choosing the exact moment when enemies dipped their heads, lost balance, or attacked from the side. A single strike could determine the outcome of a battle. Ankylosaurus is the perfect symbol of absolute defense evolution. While many species evolve to run faster, bite harder, think smarter, form larger herds, Ankylosaurus chose the opposite path: silent, slow, patient, impenetrable. It didn't rule the world. It didn't hunt. It didn't fight for dominance. But it survived across millions of years in an age of colossal predators, not by luck, but through a profound evolutionary philosophy. When defense reaches perfection, attack becomes unnecessary. The age of Ankylosaurus was not merely a period in which an armored creature survived, but the final chapter of the dinosaur era, the moment when nature reached the threshold of the most violent transformation in Earth's history. Ankylosaurus had stood firm for millions of years in the shadow of enormous predators, yet it too could not escape the great cycle of evolution, where life and death blend like ancient currents. The world Ankylosaurus lived in had begun to change long before the meteor fell. Massive volcanic eruptions in the Deccan Traps, unpredictable climate shifts, sharp fluctuations in temperature, vegetation changing with erratic wet-dry cycles. In the forest, Ankylosaurus sensed these changes in its own way. Plants grew tougher, old leaves appeared more often, the air felt heavier, tinged with smoke. The ground quivered with distant movements deep beneath the earth. It could not understand why, but it felt that something immense was approaching. One morning, Ankylosaurus left its familiar forest and moved toward a wide valley where ferns grew high, reaching the level of its armored plates. Sunlight spread gold across each bony ridge on its back, making its whole body seem to glow within the mist. Everything was quiet. No raptor screeching, no fresh footprints of T-Rex, no strong winds. A strange quietness the kind nature creates right before chaos descends. Ankylosaurus walked as if it were the last creature in the world. And then, the sky burst into light. Not the light of the sun, but a blinding white light, so bright the entire ancient forest shone as if it were midday. A flash that lasted for tens of seconds, unnatural, silent, terrifying. Ankylosaurus lifted its head. It stopped eating, its tail club lowered to the ground like a block of stone. On the distant horizon, a fireball plunged toward Earth. That light was something no creature had ever witnessed before. In that moment, modern science can explain. An asteroid 10-12 kilometers wide, traveling over 60,000 kilometers per hour, releasing energy billions of times stronger than nuclear bombs. But for Ankylosaurus, it was only an instinctive signal, an unavoidable change. A few days later, the sky grew murky. A few weeks later, the sun vanished completely. Ash from the impact spread across the globe, blocking out the light. Temperatures dropped sharply. Plants withered. Food chains collapsed. Ankylosaurus still tried to cling to its habits, seeking the last surviving ferns, walking toward patches of warm soil, avoiding the cold winds that carried the smell of sulfur. But the world was no longer the same. No more raptors, no more T-Rex moving through the forest, no more rumbling herds of Edmontosaurus across the plains. Everything fell silent, a silence strange and frightening. Even as the world collapsed, Ankylosaurus fought in its own way. No fleeing, no panic, no abandoning its nature. It remained slow, steady, living to its final moment with the strength of evolutionary defense. Perhaps it did not understand it was reaching its final chapter, but it lived as if each day mattered just as it had for millions of years. And that is what makes Ankylosaurus meaningful. It was not a symbol of offensive strength, but a symbol of persistence. Millions of years later, when the dust of time had erased everything and Earth entered the age of entirely new beings, paleontologists found rugged armor plates, tail clubs heavy as carved stone, wide, deep footprints, skull fragments thick as natural steel. Those fossils tell the story Ankylosaurus never spoke. A creature calm, not aggressive, not dominant, yet enduring through the harshest era in Earth's history. A walking fortress, a poem carved in stone, a testament to nature's most perfect defensive strategy. Today, Ankylosaurus is recognized as the species with the most advanced armor evolution, a master of defensive strategy, one of the greatest natural tanks ever to exist, a model for research in mechanics, biology, and evolution. Its legacy does not lie in violent power, but in a philosophy. The ones who survive are not the strongest, but those who adapt best to adversity. Ankylosaurus is living proof of that. Imagine you are standing in a museum, looking up at the skeleton of Ankylosaurus. You would see curved armor plates marked with ancient scratches, a tail club so heavy it seems unreal, a body low, long, powerful, a skull thick as ancient stone, not a vicious creature, not a ruler of its world, but a symbol of endurance, a reminder that nature does not honor only the strongest, but also the most steadfast. Evening falls. The last rays of sunlight slip through the canopy, casting a fiery red copper glow across the armored plates of the Ankylosaurus, like metal heated in a forge. It stands in the middle of a wide forest clearing, where ferns rise up to its flanks, and cold winds sweep along the ground carrying the scent of dry dust and something unfamiliar. Not the scent of plants, not the scent of water, but the smell of meat, heavy and metallic. Ankylosaurus stops eating. It lifts its head, its black eyes reflecting the faint red shimmer of the setting sun. The world around it suddenly turns silent, unnervingly silent. In the distant shadows, something moves. First, the snap of a dry branch. Then, the faint tremor of the earth. From between tree trunks thick as stone pillars, an adult Tyrannosaurus rex emerges. It is nearly twice the size of the Ankylosaurus, muscles rippling beneath sun-scorched skin, its cold yellow eyes like shards of metal. It does not roar. It does not charge. It simply stands there, lowering its head, studying the armored opponent with meticulous attention. A perfect predator knows this battle is unlike any other. For a few brief seconds, the entire forest is dead still. The tiny birds hiding in the branches fall silent. Insects stop flying. The wind moves, but no one hears it. Ankylosaurus lowers its body, center of gravity pushed toward the earth, its front legs slightly spread for balance. This is not a retreat. This is the final confrontation of two ancient warriors of the deep past. Rex strikes first, its hammer-like bite aiming for the shoulders, the thickest armored plates of the Ankylosaurus. Thud! The sound is like metal hit by a sledgehammer. Several small osteoderms shatter, scattering like fragments of stone. Ankylosaurus steps back half a pace, the ground compressing into two deep pits beneath its weight. But it does not fall. No warning, no roar, only a turn. A perfect turn. The hind leg muscles tighten like drawn bowstrings. The body pivots sideways. The air splits. Whoosh! The tail club slams into the right leg of the T-Rex. Crack! The sound of breaking bone echoes clearly through the forest. T-Rex roars, this time a true scream, a violent blend of agony and fury. The beast staggers, head dipping, but it does not give up. T-Rex rams a fallen tree aside with a headbutt and charges again from the opposite angle, hoping to force the Ankylosaurus to turn the wrong way. But Ankylosaurus does not make mistakes. It pivots backward, bracing on its left leg, and turns again. The tail club sweeps across the ground, sending mud flying. T-Rex leaps back a surprisingly quick dodge, but its massive weight makes it slip on the wet soil. Injured as it is, the T-Rex tries once more. It roars and hurls itself straight at its opponent in a desperate final lunge. Ankylosaurus lowers its body, its entire frame stiffening like a stone wall. The moment the two creatures collide, boom! The impact thunders like a storm. T-Rex recoils, losing balance. Ankylosaurus rotates one last time. The tail club crashes into its ribs. A sharp crack splits the air. The predator collapses, breath ragged, its yellow eyes fading. It doesn't die immediately, but the wound is enough to end the fight. After several futile attempts to rise, the T-Rex finally limps away, dragging itself into the dark forest. Ankylosaurus stands still, breathing slowly, its black eyes watching its retreating foe disappear into the shadows. On its armor, cracked plates, deep bite marks, torn skin. Yet the creature remains upright, a fortress standing amid ruin. It has survived, but the world is changing. The sky begins to turn an unfamiliar shade of grey from distant ash. This battle, one of the final battles of a creature encased in armor, will never be witnessed by any living species. Except us, tens of millions of years later, through the fossilized bones left behind. Ankylosaurus was not the strongest, not the largest, not the fastest. But in its final battle, it proved one thing. Resilience can be stronger than any bite, any claw, any fear. Its fossils cracked armor plates. A scarred tail club tells stories it never spoke aloud. A silent warrior. A symbol of endurance. An immortal memory of the Cretaceous.